patiently waiting for the stream of faith which brings life forever. The man of tomorrow. Who will be the man of tomorrow?
Hi, good morning. Today I'm going to move the manifold with a little bit of luck. Hopefully I've got an end cap to go on here. I don't necessarily need to feed it, and then I might be able to get away with this. But we'll see. I'm going to attempt to fit it on here. Eventually we're probably going to put a seat in there. We're not really too sure what we're doing there yet. But what we do need to achieve is to get the circulation from this tank into this tank via this grow bed. Also keeping the fountain going. This vertical grow. And this vertical grow. Well, as you can see, the manifold's now gone. We've placed it there. Not 100% certain if it'll stay there. It might actually be better right up here. Well, hey, for the time being. And it might be quite easy to hide it there. The pump, that's the larger pump. That's now in there. I'm going to replace that white pipe for some black piping. Just so it don't stand out so much. The old feed for the fountain is now fed. That's coming from the bottom of the manifold. This piece of pipe here is just to release pressure if we've been turning stuff off. So it's not going to be there, it's just a temporary measure. And now we're feeding up here to the top of these tanks, back down in the pool. Checking the overflow we put in a few days back. What I've done is I've put a tube on the bottom to suck off debris from the bottom, heavier particles from the bottom. And also the little green pipe coming off there is now feeding the original UV biological filter. And the overflows seem to be coping quite fine. It does come up a little bit more than that. As you can see, the overflowing. Now we're at the maximum level at the moment. Should lose a little bit. So tomorrow I will look at changing that for black piping, clean that up, perhaps change that piece of tubing for a piece of black tubing, and maybe move this, or perhaps turn this one round. So we need to do a little bit more piping up. Well, 2 spare feeds there now at the moment, so that should be easy to do. Right, I've fitted the black piping. It's just standard black overflow pipe. Just it does stand out a lot less than your prime example there between the 2 pipes. So I need another elbow. I'll put another elbow on there. So the whole idea of this side is to get it to look pretty normal, rather than how the other side used to look with all the piping. So we'll get this working today, and hopefully got all the pump in here now. Excuse me. And I'm going to drive this top tank and this one, and then perhaps move this vertical grow. Don't know yet. I'll have a see. Okay, more later. Well, almost at the end of day 2 of me moving our aquaponics and hydroponics around in the backyard. This used to be our main tank. Quite a few will remember. It's now empty. And we're just running this on this side of this barrel. Now, because my pumps aren't big enough, I've got one pump in that barrel, and it's pumping it up this tube. The water in here is just so the pump doesn't overheat. And then I've got a little maxi jet pump, which are really good strong pumps for the size. That's pushing that up that tube, which is feeding each of the drippers in the top of the vertical grow. And then it's coming back out of here, the bottom of the vertical grow, down the green tube and back into this tank. This tank then fills up and then activates, oh that's right on cue, activates its bell and the barrel will fill back up again. The top tank, which used to be fed from this main tank, is now being fed through this pipe here, which runs along the wall up from the manifold, as does the feeder one for the top. And then that tank empties down that white tube, turning black and then coming out of there. Now we did have it overflowing into the main pond, but our overflows just can't take it, so I'm going to need another overflow or increase the size of one. As you can see now, that barrel and stop right to the rim. Oh, that's working fine. Temporary, of course, this just to keep it running. We aren't going to move more. It's just we want to keep our 9-foot tomato. Now I've got a bit to report on the 9-foot tomato. It's actually been damaged right at the top on the pipe, so it's kind of nicked it out. It's very unlikely it'll get any taller, which is a shame. It's got about another maybe 3-4 weeks. But anyway, we had a good go. Hello to you if you're watching on the webcam at the moment. It's one of the new webcams up there. Our 9-foot tomato has, I'm pleased to report, got a shoot appearing at the top, so it might make it a little bit taller yet. As you can see there, we've got strawberries there at the side of the tomatoes. Let's throw in some more. There's a few more down here. A weird shaped one there. Hi, just thought I'd show you this. I'm having problems with this bell siphon, and it's the fitting in the bottom, the tank fitting. My problem is it's leaking from round the thread here. Keeps dripping all the time, you can see here. Now it's not much, but it also sucks air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that fitting inside there. And we're lucky with these. If you look at that fitting, there's two little flanges on the side of it. I've taken a piece of plastic tubing and I've cut a slot both sides. Okay, I'm going to slot the tube over the fittings. Now I can turn the tube at the top and undo the screw at the bottom. I'll take that apart. As you can see, I've removed the piping. I've loosened using the slotted pipe, and I've inserted another piece of tubing into the top. So now I can just simply unscrew. I've loosened it. I can simply unscrew this. And then remove that end and placing it immediately. You can see down there, just slotting in, dead simply. The other one, make sure your pipe's long enough. And then taking the new thread, and simply screwing on underneath. Now you'll have two hands, so you'll be able to hold the top. I can't. Okay, the new one is now in place. One of the things you can find is really difficult to do is getting this back in there. So if you get a bit of plastic tubing and shove it up from underneath, like that, and then you insert your other one over the top. Well, can I hold that with my knee? Yes, I can. And then we just pop that over the end of the black plastic pipe, and then you can align it removing your plastic pipe and then just pushing in place. Now when you don't push it all the way down, don't push it too tight. When you come back out, you push this up the other end and shove the sharp edge up against the edge of the pipe. So you're pushing it up through the fitting and it comes up against the edge of the pipe, and you can simply push it back out again. And in case it's not quite right and you need to remove it. So that's that bit done. Put the bell back in and I'll put the pipe work back on below. Well, that took a little longer than I expected. I had to cut a piece of tubing, it was slightly longer now. I'm still tuning this bell syphon. It's starting difficulty getting it to stop, but I mean it's just tuning up the amount of water that's going into it. Everything else is now working. This one's just starting to trigger, you can see in the barrel. I'm now running this oil pump. This is the oil pump we bought originally, it must be 10 years old, more than that now. Through a valve, emptying back into the rear, or filling at the rear, excuse me, and then emptying through the bell syphon. Our vertical grow, as you can see here, is now same way, being fed the same way, a return up here and being fed up this pipe, but now just from this individual bucket. I've given the vertical grow a lot of thought, and I'm going to case it. I'm going to put it in a case with a trough on the bottom, probably a timber one or something. We should be able to run this on a reel just off this one little pump on its own self-contained system. So that's what I'm going to work for doing next, get that one sorted. We have to wait for the tomato. The tomato is actually planted in this one, it starts here. So yeah, lots of fiddling around the last few days, getting things right. Well, really it's been going on since we decided that the bulk of the fish were going to be on this side. You can't plan too much, you really cannot plan too much. You may notice here that the water level is a little low at the moment. This morning when I came out, I have two snails, large snails. If I can see any of them at the moment. One of them is now in the small pond. One was here, right on the overflow, pushed up against it, and the other one, believe it or not, was right at the bottom, on the bottom overflow. So I'm going to drill a few holes in this tube, just in case this kind of thing happens again. And what had happened is the header tank here had emptied and this had overflowed, and then the pond was down to about an inch over the top of the pump. So yeah, we really need to get that sorted out. So yeah, larger overflow, and make sure the overflow doesn't get blocked, otherwise we may have had dead fish. But hey, all's well that ends well. I think that's about all I can give you for this time. My apologies because it's a little bit choppy and changey, but I've endeavoured to show you some of the processes that you have to go through. It doesn't always look nice and beautiful like that one, you see. Sometimes it is, but you will get there, and you will get there. Once again, planning and planning. I should have got my daughter back. She's a little bit older than she was when she designed this one, so maybe I should get her back on the design team. Okay, as always, I hope it helps. Ask us what you don't know, and please tell us what you do.
Strike with knowledge, oh children. Within I know I rock is a solid foundation. Jah is our guide through creation. Have faith, bow patiently waiting for the stream of faith which brings life forever.